it's more than basic. It's a portion of his rap, but the core is ancient. It's supported like a pack of some more observations. They're important like the fact that we're bored of fake shit. More creative, have the floor, so take it. Travel to the core is a normal placement. Tattoos on my arm.
If you're living in East Texas, guys, I really hope you brought out a condom when you came out today, because you never know how the weather here is going to fuck you, and you want to be safe. Be prepared, people. Have your umbrella, have your bathing suit, have your parka, and for the love of God, wear protection. You're with Tattoo with Children. I am your host, Flavor Ray, and C-Day. Across from me and CB is the Dread Pirate Benjamin. Across from us both is millionaire investor CIO Payne.
What's up, guys?
That's a little exaggerated.
Slightly exaggerated. When I'm meant to say 100 air.
100 air. Perfect.
You're manifesting, and I appreciate that.
Explain.
Well, you're saying what Mike's gonna be.
Oh,
what he is already, but the zeros haven't caught up with him.
Right, exactly. It's the dream board.
Hey, in other news, look at this dope tattoo my son did on me last night.
Is that where that came from? Oh my goodness! It is 12-12-12-12 for the people who cannot see through the Spotify.
That is some black magic motherfucking shit on the full moon. 12-12-12-12.
I have no idea what you've done to yourself though. Like I don't know. Like that was probably a spell.
That's a
oh
curse
no,
mark.
it's straight up. But see, this is the world pirates play in.
That is true.
The world pirates play in is not the world of understanding that we call them the normals go by.
Like here's a weird thing about that. Like every group, like I believe that all the groups are pirates. That's the reason why I jumped on pirates so fast.
Mm-hmm.
Because, Harry Potter is like, oh, yeah, we're all wizards. Like, what about the non-wizards? Well, we call them muggles.
Yeah.
Right. Like, it's always, us against everyone. Because the first rule of piracy, maybe the only rule of piracy, is make war against the world.
Against civilization.
Against civilization.
Yeah.
And that's what all those great groups that we all love, that's what they all do.
Yeah. So
it seems like, we're ninja, we're wizards.
Yeah.
We're soldiers, but we're also pirates.
Yeah. So I want to talk about something today that's very relevant to piracy, but a lot of people are not going to know what to do with it. They may in fact be caught off guard a little bit. I want to talk about crying.
Oh. Okay.
So I have for a long time, I grew up, we've talked about how I grew up, and let's not run over all that bullshit again.
Okay.
But I think that one of the interesting things about how I grew up was that crying wasn't really forbidden, right?
Right.
I just grew up in an era where men didn't do it.
Yeah.
And so like the John Wayne,
Yeah.
the strong, silent type.
I think it's even worse with black men.
Okay.
I really do. Like, the only time I remember ever personally seeing my father cry was he was burning trash and accidentally had a WD-40 can end up in there, so it exploded.
Yeah.
And so he walked in the house, and half of his face had been blown off. It was pink.
Okay.
And he had one tear rolling out of the eye.
Just the one.
Just the one tear.
Yeah.
And the rest of his bone dry. He's like, we got to call somebody.
Yeah.
That's what I grew up with. So I don't cry often.
Okay.
I try to cry more often than I used to.
Okay, so it's an interesting thing though, because there are certain times, for me, I get into a headspace, and it's generally when I'm feeling change is the best way to describe it. So I'm not depressed. I'm not that I know of. I'm not lonely.
Right.
Okay, I'm not struggling with one thing in particular, but I can feel change coming on, and so
Right.
I go through my normal things. Okay, to work with that, So let's say first I try to put in the work. I feel this change coming on. I'm feeling some type of way. And so I'm like, okay, I feel this. I recognize that it's there. Okay, I observe it. And it's not going anywhere. So I try to put in the work. And I text some people, I DM some people, I respond to some emails. And I go, okay, so for maybe the next day to, I really focus on work. I put ink in skin, I get good drawings out, I tattoo people.
I think that's a good instinct, since the alternative is to be stagnant.
Okay, so then I notice that it's still there.
Right.
Okay, so I've had this feeling. I'm feeling some type of way. I don't know what it is. I've observed that it's there. Then I've put in the work. Mm-hmm. Now I'm a little confused because the work didn't work.
Okay.
I'm still feeling some type of way.
Okay.
So then I'll generally try to spend some alone time. What I mean by that is I'll leave work early, or I'll go hang out in the woods, or I'll go watch a movie.
Yeah.
Or I'll tell the crew, like, hey, and this doesn't happen very often. I'll tell the crew, like, hey, I'm unavailable today, and I'll go in the back, and I'll watch an episode or something. Like Naruto or
Billions,
or some show I like.
Yeah.
And then inevitably, as the day will go, we'll still be working, we'll still be doing things, So maybe that's that day 3, and I wake up day 4, and I'm still feeling that way.
Yeah, it's kind of like a rock in your shoe, but it's an emotional rock.
Yeah, I know it's there, but I don't know what it is.
Yeah, you took off your sock, took off your shoe, and it's still there.
Yeah, so then I'll try to eat some good food. Be like, you know what? Maybe my body chemistry is just off.
Uh-huh.
Like maybe I need to go for a walk.
Right.
Maybe I need to have a steak. Maybe I need to run by CVS and pick up some vitamins.
Right.
So that's day 4.
Mm-hmm.
Wake up day 5, still feeling, still something there, still the rock in the shoe, and it's then generally that I go, fuck. I don't know what it is. I've observed it. I've done everything I know how to do. I'm gonna have to cry.
Yeah.
And I don't, again, I don't like getting to that because it feels very unmasculine.
Yeah, it does. You feel very well. Oh, no. I'll take that back immediately.
Okay.
I will disagree with it. It's not unmasculine. That's such a big trap that I fall into.
Okay.
It's not unmasculine. It is vulnerable. You feel vulnerable.
Yeah, but I think in my mind, I associate being vulnerable with not being masculine enough.
Yes, we do. And that's a huge mistake. Like, we both do this, I know.
Okay. So it's not, so I'm feeling vulnerable, and I realize that I have to cry.
Right.
There's no other, sex isn't going to work, Jesus isn't going to work, and so now I have to cry.
Mm-hmm.
There's only one way I know to do that.
Okay. I'm interested in this because I don't know how.
It's music.
Uh-huh.
Music is the only way
Interesting.
that I can get to that vulnerable side of myself.
Okay.
So I put up a tweet about 3 days ago, and it got a massive response. And by massive, I mean nothing. A little bit of sarcasm there. I had gotten some pushback on Twitter a few days earlier, and so I was feeling not quite myself. So I just ignored it, and I didn't reshare it to my Instagram or anything. I didn't talk to anybody about it. I just kind of stayed in my feelings,
Right?
Because that's the thing I can do.
That's a great thing there.
Yeah, and it just kept getting worse, and so. Let's see the tweet. Let me run back to that real quick.
Cool.
The tweet that I put up was 3 days ago. Was anyone else have a song that helps them cry? Hashtag vulnerability. Hashtag emotional well-being. Hashtag asking for a friend.
Good Lord, when did you? I never even saw that post.
Yeah, I know it got completely missed over. It's fine. Don't worry about it. I'm not important. But that's the only way I can do it.
Okay. Is with a. Oh, hold on a second. Like, what kind of song are we talking about? Are we talking about a sad song, put you in a sad frame of mind that you can cry in? Or are we talking about something that is a heart, a soul touching song? Or are we talking about that certain rap lyric that gets you every time? Is it some combination of all of it? It's just something that makes it happen.
Yeah, I mean, so to answer your question, yes.
Okay.
It
could be anything.
It really could be anything. So I know, for instance, the Counting Crows do it a lot.
Okay.
But they don't do it for me anymore. So, and when I say a lot, I mean 2 decades.
Right, yeah.
They have a line from their first album, August and Everything After.
The greatest album they've ever done and ever will do.
Yeah, it says, asleep in perfect blue buildings, beside the green apple sea. I've got to get a little oblivion, baby, so I can get myself away from me.
Yeah.
That fucked my shit up. Like, I could almost... You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like, another one would have been Omaha, which the chorus is, it's back to the heart of matters. It's the heart that matters most. Mm-hmm. And it talks about people walking in the rain. These 2 or 3 different individuals that may or may not be the same individual walking in the rain. And it just, it would fuck me up.
Right.
It would put me in touch with that vulnerable side of myself and allow me to cry.
Very, very interesting.
And when I say cry, okay, but here's the other thing that has to happen.
Okay.
I cannot be around people.
Right.
And I also cannot be in my safe spaces.
Okay.
So, for instance, I can't be at 302 Mantooth.
Okay.
I can't be at my home. I can't be at the woods where I know my trees. I can't, okay? So I have to literally get in my car.
Yeah.
Okay? And generally I'll pretend that I'm leaving for the day.
Okay.
Or I'll pretend that I have errands to run.
Right.
I'll be like, hey, guys, I gotta go do a thing. It's very important. I'll see you later.
Right.
And so what happens then is I get in my car and I drive around aimlessly.
Okay.
Like, I use the loop around our town as a kind of a, like, buffer.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I'm like a ping pong ball that doesn't come to rest inside of it.
Seriously, I've done that so many times.
Yeah.
Just full disclosure, we all do that in Lufkin.
All right. So
that's like half the traffic on the loop is people just driving the goddamn loop.
Just trying to cope with life.
It really is. Because as often as I do it and you do it and Mike does it and my wife does it and your wife, like as we all do it, we're not that unique. It must be at any given time, 30% of the town is thinking about driving the loop.
So I was hoping that Twitter could help me out.
Right. And give you a good song.
Yeah, give me a good
tearjerker, if you would.
Years ago, by the way, in answer to your earlier question, some years later, maybe 7 or 8 years later, after the Counting Crows was working for me, Tupac did it.
Yeah, I was about to say that too. So Tupac got me a few times.
Fucking Tupac, man, and it was always either Dear Mama
Yeah, that's a good one.
Or Hail Mary.
Hail Mary can do it to me right now if I start in it.
Like it just like they got an APB out on my Thug Family. It just goes and it's just like fuck off. Like and like all of a sudden I'm fucking in my feelings. And I can't stop.
Right.
And I can have that. Now, the worst part of this plan, this genius plan that I have,
Right.
because I'm a 40-year-old male
using music
in
to
America,
get you in touch with your feelings.
is that I'm operating an automobile.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. So you don't park at any moment to get this done.
Because I don't know when it's going to hit.
Right.
Because I'm looking for something that I've never been able to put a finger on.
Right.
I'm looking for something I've never found. So I'm just trying to let's go through the old favorites, YouTube, Spotify, let's find something. And so I'm on, 1132, I'm on the West Loop, and all of a sudden, either Spotify or YouTube sends me to that new song that I haven't heard based on my playlist,
Right.
And all of a sudden, I'm there, and it hits me, and it hurts. It hurts everywhere.
So it's not that the song is inducing an emotion at all. It's that you need a window into the emotions that are already there, kind of like a trip to the beach, and the car and the music is the car that drives you there.
Yeah, it's like I'm looking for a key. The key so the key,
a key to a door.
The key, I put everything in this room, and now the room is full, and I need a key to unlock it.
Right.
And the only key I know is music.
Okay, I feel you.
And so it's not it. Maybe the song does imply some combination of emotion.
Yeah.
That clicks the tumblers in the safe over.
You know what? I would in my mind I would imagine that the song just clues you into one emotion. In other words, it's you get in touch with one feeling, and through that feeling, you're able to then access all the rest of them.
Okay.
Because as much as you're describing, as much build as you're describing, it's not external at all. It's you're in the dark and you're feeling around looking for your emotions, and then all of a sudden the song comes on and shines a flashlight and goes, "It's right there. You see it? Put your hand on it."
Okay.
And then you put your hand on it, and it's like the lights come on, and all the rest of them are there.
All right. So Twitter didn't respond to this. So I'm gonna tell y'all what got me there this time.
Okay.
I mean, maybe people need to know.
No, yeah, this could get very good information. Go ahead.
And this is a band that not a lot of people know about, and it's a band that not a lot of people like. But it worked for me, and maybe we can, I'll tweet it out later in response to myself. The National.
Oh yeah, I love the National. Actually,
super dark, depressing, motherfucking Canadian band.
Yeah, they are.
They put out a song recently called "Light Years," and it's I don't know, man. It's devastating. But the lyrics are, and I'll just read them.
Okay, sure.
I don't think just me reading them is going to cause anybody to cry. If you're crying right now, I apologize.
He said the National, Jesus.
Because of how bad the podcast is.
That's. I'll apologize for that. That's wholly my fault.
So this is Aaron Dessner, the one of the lead founders of the National. You were waiting outside for me in the sun, laying down to soak it all in before we had to run. I was always 10 feet behind you from the start. I didn't know you were gone till we were in the car. The glory of it all was lost on me. till I saw how hard it would be to reach you. And I would always be light years away from you.
Oh, that's brutal. That's fucking brutal.
And dude, I had to fucking pull the car over
That's brutal without the music.
because it so fucking identified the emotion I was feeling.
Yeah, that was a big spotlight on the emotion that was going on.
I was a part. And you know from like
Yeah.
you've seen the better part of my tattoos.
Yeah.
And they all deal with abandonment, and they all deal with those with no voice, and
Right.
they all deal with, quite frankly, me.
Yeah, they're all very personal tattoos. Like people oftentimes come up to me and go, "Hey, what does that tattoo mean?" And honestly, most of my tattoos don't have a deep meaning.
Right.
Like honestly, there's 3 that I actually thought about before putting on, and the rest of them were just like, "Hey, let's do a thing today." Ben's tattoos are not like that. Like I oftentimes look at his hands and his arms, and like his story is so laid out in his tattoos. Like you don't have to know him for too long to get the gist.
I'm not a huge fan of mirrors. I walk in front of a mirror and I'm just like, God
Who the
damn,
fuck is that?"
you're devastating to yourself.
I mean, on the back of one hand is a grenade, and it's got a ribbon around it that says, "This is from Matilda."
Yeah,
I mean, like I don't know how. I don't know a more stark image of what kind of guy you're dealing with than that.
yeah, the professional.
It was like, dude, if you ever you don't know that movie, then go and find Leon the Professional as soon as you possibly can. It is a fantastic film.
And then some 2 decades later, Alt J wrote a song about that movie titled "This Is From Matilda."
Yeah,
which is
good.
a fantastic line in the film. That film was, Jesus, light years. Speaking of the National
Wow.
again, light years ahead of its time.
On that segue, we're going to go into a side topic as soon as we get back from this break.
My name ain't Mikey, but yeah, I rock. You know why? Because I don't give a fuck. That's why it doesn't matter.
We're back with Tattoo with Children, and Pirate Ben in the first segment there he just sort of gave a little window into how he operates, and maybe a little clue into how the rest of us operate, because like he's right. I know for a fact that I get into a mode where nothing works. You know, I'm trying to feel better, and nothing's making me feel better. There's nothing wrong. I just want to feel better. And so typically what I'll try to do is, okay, what I need to do is have some sex.
Okay.
Just have a ton of sex, and then I'll feel better. And either the sex is unavailable, or I have it and it didn't quite work, or it worked partially. And so I'll...
Oh, wait a minute. Are you saying you cried during sex?
No, I don't cry during sex, but...
Okay. But it can access it.
Yeah, it's like... I don't crygasm.
Okay, well, I just maybe figured I learned something about you.
Sorry, that was...
Like maybe that's the reason the woman in your life is disappointed. Is because you're just like, oh God, why?
I think my wife would find that so amusing. Maybe I should try that and see if she would do it more often.
She would probably laugh.
She would find that completely amusing.
I would guess for days.
Yeah. She would always remind me of it.
She would be like running down the road. She's a big runner. She'd be running down the road. She'd just be like chuckling to herself.
Yeah.
She's like, I had to fucking stop my run because you fucking idiot.
He's over here weeping while he's trying to get one. But no, that's not.
Okay, so that's not what happens.
But it can definitely exchange enough energy that I can figure out the rest of it.
Okay.
But if that doesn't work, what I'll try next is a story. And so I'll go and I'll look for true stories. I'll look for false stories. I'll look for good stories, look for bad stories. I'll look for any story that I can connect to. And if I can't find a story, then the only thing left is a conversation.
Okay.
And so I'll start looking for people to talk to. And that's when it gets hairy. Because it can't just be a person on the street, because many people on the street today can't carry a conversation. I don't know if you've noticed that.
I have.
But it can be difficult to find a conversation partner. And so I'll call you, or I'll call one of my other good friends, lives in Houston, named Trey, or I'll go to a spot where people are and see if there's anybody there that can possibly fill this role.
Right.
And of course my wife is good for conversation. She is a very good conversationalist, but sometimes she doesn't want to talk. You know, it's just like people have different needs at different times. She talks to me all the time, and so for me to come and say, "Hey, I need to talk to you again," it's like, oh, "Fuck, seriously?" You know, I mean, that's just how it gets sometimes. Yeah. And so I'll have to go and find somebody else. And so I'm looking around, and sometimes the act of looking for the conversation starts an internal conversation that gets me there. Yeah. You know, it's like that's one of the things that can get me there, is having that internal conversation about the search for a conversation. Yeah. I guess it's why the podcast works for me so well. Yeah. You know, the podcast is kind of like you said, I've already had a good conversation today because I was on the podcast. Yeah.
Or I had a conversation with myself on the way to the podcast.
Yeah. While I was figuring out what the podcast is going to be about, if the podcast is going to be about anything that day.
Yeah. Which is good for us because we're in keeping with what Rizza said. You gotta have more conversations with yourself. Yeah. And we like to do what Rizza says. So,
like I've always done what Rizza said.
Yeah, I mean, the Wu-Tang Clan is they at least there's somebody out there that knows what's up.
I am a card-carrying member as far as I'm concerned.
It also ain't nothing to fuck with.
A true story.
The Wu-Tang could be dangerous. So, it's we all. I think this is probably another thing that we all have in common that we never really talk about. Okay. You know that. We are not a vulnerable people, our generation. You know, like we sort of stamped that down. Our fathers weren't vulnerable. Our mothers weren't really vulnerable either. Like you know, it was our mothers were very good at making homes. They were very good at raising children. And to do that, they sort of denied their feelings for a long time.
Yeah, I call my mother a saint often, and I believe it, but I have to be real with you. My mother is far harder than my father is. Yeah. I mean, my mother is like possibly the hardest woman I know. And I don't mean by that she's not sweet and loving. If you've ever met Marianne or seen Marianne, she's like 5 foot of the nicest person you've ever met.
Marianne Harbuck to me is like when I picture Mrs. Claus, I picture Marianne Harbuck. Yeah, like she is literally the nicest. Like the first time you see her, the first time you've ever seen her, like that is the nicest lady I've ever seen in my entire life.
Can confirm. That
like saintly comes to mind. Yes, which is what I would think of Mrs. Claus. Like there's Santa Claus, he's weird, and there's Saint Mrs. Claus. Right. You know, and I didn't grow up Catholic, but that's how I feel about it. But also, within that context, I grew up in her house. Right. That's where I learned to thug. Right. Like, my mom doesn't pull any punches, man. Yeah. My mom is like justice.
Your mother was raising, 6, 7 boys at the same time? Yeah. And homeschooling all of them? Yeah. I mean, if that's not thug credentials, there are no thug credentials.
Right. I mean, and she fucking you know, people would be like, well, I love that quote by Patrick Henry. And she's like, yeah, but if you don't know what informed Patrick Henry, like if you don't know the letters he was writing and the people he was talking to and who informed them, like he didn't say that shit in a vacuum. Right. My mother would never curse, but, you know, like she knew, like she studied, like she got done with the Bible and just like went to like the philosopher, lawyer, poets that talked about justice.
Right.
Like, and dude, it was like it was cold.
It was an intense educational experience, I imagine.
Yeah, like you've heard some of the stuff my son says, and my son's fucking savage.
Yeah, he is.
Like he is just, but like that was my mom, dude.
That's pretty rough.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like she would just be like, "So what is the morality in question here?" And like bring out the paper, you know, and like let's read this story on page 2A and find out what we're going to have to fix about society.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and it was just like we got done with like dinner, and it's like, well, I don't know if we're supposed to create an army or go to law school. Like, you know what I mean? Like, Mom says justice has to be done, so somebody's got to do it.
I guess we're killing people? Yeah. No, we're not killing people. Well, what are we doing, Ma? Right. No, when I just cracked up for a second there trying to picture your mother cursing. Like it's that caught me by surprise.
Yeah, no, that has never happened, and I think she might have gotten really upset once. And when I say really upset, like if you saw her from a distance, you would think that she was on fire.
Right.
Right? And I think in that moment she said shoot. Which in her mind was like fuck, damn, hell, and every other word at the same time.
Right.
But she didn't like to use the word shoot, and she taught us not to use it because it was a proper person's way of saying shit. Right.
And so if you substitute the word, it's still the word.
It's still the word.
Yeah, there we go.
So you can't fucking go that route.
I was so there with you as soon as you said that.
So like darn.
Darn is another one.
She wouldn't even use like if she would say let me sew up your socks, not let me darn your socks. Like because we a bunch of boys like we went through socks like fucking
so
water.
That is so good.
So she wouldn't even say like let me darn your socks, right?
Right.
Or shoot at the target, because shoot and darn are off limit words.
That she is savage.
Like proper etiquette is
that is next level right there.
Yeah, like those words. Like if those words could be implied that it was an ill manner of speaking, she was not there. You know,
Man, like the only other person in a story I've heard with that level of politeness is Hannibal Lecter. Hannibal Lecter was that polite.
God, that was such a great TV show.
Hannibal?
If you guys,
it was
again, another one, if you haven't seen Hannibal, it is completely worth it.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
It was devastating.
It takes like if you watch the whole thing, that first movie takes on a whole nother dimension. Mm-hmm. It's like okay, all this stuff that was going on underneath the surface. Like I mean, and it's in the books. Like the books are very detailed about what's going on and how they're going on.
Now, do books help you get there? Can you cry with a book?
It'll take a long time with a book. Like it's because. There are two things that happen when I read a book. The first thing that happens is I'm joining a new world that's a new person's brain, in my opinion, and so I have to respect it. And so I'm taking everything as it comes. I'm not trying to add anything. I'm not trying to take anything away. I'm just trying to be in the world. Mm-hmm. The second thing that happens is once I'm in the world and I'm a part of it and I'm comfortable with being a part of it, now it's time to burn what's going on in here. Mm-hmm. And so I'm digesting the story as a way of gaining information because I think it's good information. I think stories give us good information. It's only probably going to be on the second, maybe even third reading that I'm able to connect with it on an emotional soul level. Mm-hmm. Whereas, unless the book just really takes me by surprise. Like one of the Mistborn series, that was one of the very few times that as soon as I got into the world, like my emotions were raw. They were raw and exposed, and I couldn't stop it, and I had to not read the whole thing right away. You know, I had to like stop and cry or smoke or walk around downtown for a couple of hours. Not even like, you know, I would have to really, really recover before I go back into the series again. But that happens very rarely, very, very rarely.
Yeah.
Like it didn't happen with Flowers in the Attic.
Yeah.
Per se, you know, like books that were about the Holocaust. It didn't shake me that fast.
No, I think we're similar in that it has to be a very authentic fictional story
Yeah,
that tells of a deeper truth.
yeah. It's got to be something that I can that doesn't directly apply to the real world, because a historical book it's telling a story too, but it's a story that needs to go into the zeitgeist so that we can fix shit. Like when you tell a story about the Nazis, everyone has to get on with that story so that we can determine what went wrong and how to prevent it from happening again. Whereas if it's a fictional story, then it can apply to my soul directly. You know, like it's like I don't have to think about society while I'm doing this, and that's the only way I'm going to be able to get into it emotionally.
Yeah, I was thinking the Mistborn series definitely got me. The other one would have been The Wheel of Time, but it wasn't. But it wasn't until book 7 or 8.
Yeah.
That in other words, Rand had to be way far down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, it wasn't like I didn't really feel extreme emotional attachment to it until he's on top of the mountain.
Yeah.
Ender's Game.
Okay.
Ender's Game.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah,
that's a good one. Yeah.
And Dragonlance, too.
Yeah, I can definitely get with that.
By the way, yes, this is something that came up like a few episodes ago, and I just want to point out, we all know, like here in this room, we know who Orson Scott Card is.
Yeah.
We know who he was.
Yeah.
We know what he
he's about.
believed. We know what he's about. We're not saying, like, you can read a book by a person and get a lot out of it and not agree with. Like, if you'll notice that when we talk, we'll often say that this person is a horrible person, or we'll say this person is insane. Personally, I believe, like, one of the people that can get me in my emotions the fastest is Eckhart Tolle. And Eckhart Tolle is possibly the most insane person that's ever lived.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never heard of a person this level of crazy.
Yeah.
But he has a unique ability to tap into a skill that's useful for everyone. And he recognizes that. And so I recognize that, and I try and do it. And it kind of fucks me up. But I'm not saying that I'm not saying that everyone should do it this way, and I'm not saying that he's a good person for knowing it, that he's a genius for knowing it. I'm saying that he's mostly crazy, he's mostly insane, but I can use it.
Yeah.
You know, and Orson Scott Card is very similar.
Yeah. You and I have that, but that's another point that you and I have always contended, that we only read crazy people.
Yeah, it's. I think it's the truth.
There's like people tell me about that. They'll be like, you should read George Bernard Shaw, and I'm like, I'm not reading that. And they're like,
Right.
why? And I'm like, well, he was fine.
Yeah,
Yeah, there was nothing wrong about
right.
it.
And they're like, well, okay, what about this guy over here? And I'm like, no, he wasn't crazy at all. Like, he had a perfectly good life. He seemed, and his reading makes total sense. And I'm sure that nice people like to read his words and think nice things. I, on the other hand, am insane. So I'm going to have to read some insane people to figure out the fuck is going on in my head right now.
Yeah, it's my only path to sanity is to go through the insanity.
Yeah.
Like, I can't go backwards. Like,
Right.
I'm always fascinated by people who are trying to get you to go backwards. It's like, it's the man, I'm in a bad place. So, well, where were you last week? It's like, well, I was fine last week. Well, go back there. No.
Why would I do that?
I was like, no, I'm not going backwards.
No, like if you understood what it was like to be trapped in my brain, you'd read Crazy People too.
Exactly.
You know, like you
If
read
you
like,
knew what was going on up here,
yeah, like
in this fucked up skull,
Yeah.
you would definitely be like, "Hey, give me Jack Kerouac on stat."
yeah, like I read Hannibal, or I read fucking the crazy guy from Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Hunter S. Thompson. Got it.
Hunter
Boom.
S. Thompson.
Yeah, I read Hunter S. Thompson. Right?
Yeah.
That's like reading like Dr. Seuss to me.
Yeah, it really is.
Like,
oh my God, he's so like Dr. Seuss.
When I go back and I look at Hunter S. Thompson's his like stuff that got published in the Rolling Stone, I'm just happy. You know what I mean? Like his thing he wrote on the Kentucky Derby, where he met some like moron from Texas and like fucked with him for 2 days.
Yeah.
And did like an insane amount of
God,
drinking.
That's such a great story.
Such a great story.
Dude, when I went to college, the first thing that I bought for myself, like a book, like personally for me, was this gigantic coffee table book that is nothing but the artwork of Robert Crumb.
Okay.
If you don't know, you know what Robert Crumb is? Have you ever seen that Keep On Truckin' from the 70s with the guy with the big feet?
Yeah.
Like that was Robert Crumb.
Okay.
His fucking book is the most insane book of artwork that exists in mankind.
Yeah.
If you haven't ever, like, just look it up.
I'll check it out.
It helped me through some very dark moments in those first years of college.
And I think what all we're trying to say here is that it's okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
We're not even bringing a thing that you should do.
Yeah, no, I don't have any solutions for you.
We're just saying that, look, this is part of our experience.
Let's take a quick break here, and I want to dive into this a little bit, not to tie it up, although it may end up doing that, but I think there is something very useful here that we need to talk about.
Everybody dancing, dog. Y'all on that X, I'm a sentinel, standing tall. No time to stand still, please don't be dog. They're throwing jazz at me to challenge my rap savvy. I sway like Callaway, I'm ahead, you'll never catch me.
Remember Tattoo with Children. We were just talking about vulnerability, basically. Like, here, look, okay, guys. Our parents, our fathers didn't cry. Our mothers cried in secret. For the most part, if they could. If they couldn't, they cried very quietly and they didn't tell you why. So we tend to not cry, and not crying means basically we have the first instinct of any crying emotion for anybody who is age 40 today, 41, 42, is to bury that shit as deep down as you possibly can. Lock it up behind a door, turn out the lights in the room, and just don't go in that room for another few years or so. Hopefully you'll die between the time now and the time you have to open that door again. So that's kind of our modus operandi, is to bury and forget. Guys, it doesn't work long term, to say the least. And I understand that's how we are. I know that we can only change so many things at once. And this is one of the things that's probably going to have to just sit there for a while. But that thing that you do to get in touch with your emotions, like that thing's perfectly fine. Like, I'm not even sure what that thing is, but unless it's murdering someone or otherwise harming someone, then it's music, it's books, it's movies, it's television shows. Like, I remember, I'll tell this story. There was a television show called News Radio. Mm-hmm. And it featured some people who are very famous now. They were not famous then. Mm-hmm. We're talking about Joe Rogan, Andy Dick, and Phil Hartman. Phil Hartman played a character called Bill McNeil. And this character, Bill McNeil, was literally the best part of the show. It was Phil Hartman, so you know about Phil Hartman, you know what a great comic actor he is. And so his character just stole the show. And I forget which season it was exactly, Phil Hartman was actually murdered by his ex-girlfriend or a girlfriend. It was a murder-suicide. And the way the show handled that was Bill McNeil died off screen. And they had a memorial in the news radio studio where they all worked, where the character had left them each a note about how he felt about them now that he was gone. And I remember this was sophomore year in college is when I saw this. The show had been canceled already. The show had gone on, and Phil Hartman had been dead for many years at that point, like 3 or 4 years, I guess. And I was in my dorm room alone watching reruns of news radio, and that episode came on. And by the end of the episode, I was a literal dissolved mess of tears. When I say sobbing, I don't mean, just a lot like large tears. I mean snot, heaving, couldn't breathe, because I missed my friend immediately. I missed my friend Bill McNeil immediately. Right. And because I missed Bill McNeil, I began missing all the other friends that I had lost, and all the grandparents and cousins, and all of my losses that I had been just burying came bubbling to the surface, and I was a mess for about 3 hours. I couldn't stop. It's like it stuck with me to this day. That I don't think I've cried that hard since, and I've been to funerals. It was just I haven't let myself get that pent up again. Mm-hmm. Right. I reckon that as soon as it was all done, I got myself together, cleaned myself up, took a shower, and I was like, what? You cannot fucking do that.
Like you just reset your life.
Yeah.
You had to take a shower to okay, this is the start of a brand new day. Right. Doesn't matter if it's 2 p.m.
It was that bad. Right. I was like, I said, God, look myself in the mirror and say, you cannot do that. You cannot bury everything. You will get cancer at this rate. Mm-hmm. And so I made a vow to myself then and there that I was going to release my emotions. I'm going to feel my feelings as much as I possibly could. Mm-hmm. Now, that doesn't mean that I still, I'll cry more often. Mm-hmm. But when I hug someone, I go in. Okay? I'm holding them there for a second. I'm running my hands on their back. I'm feeling their chest against my chest. I'm feeling my cheek against their cheek. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
When my kids run and hug me, mm-hmm. I'm not just give them a hug. Oh, hey, sweetie, and move on to the next thing. I'm holding them there for a second. Mm-hmm. When I kiss my wife goodnight, I'm making her know why I'm here. Mm-hmm. When I kiss her goodbye in the morning, I'm saying, hey, be safe, hurry back, because you're important to me. I make a point to do this for them to a certain extent, but really it's for me.
Yeah.
Is to keep my emotional stability.
Yeah.
Because don't get me wrong, I'll still cry over Phil Hartman.
Yeah.
Bill McNeil, because he was my friend.
Right.
But I'm not going to dissolve the way I did the first time. Mm-hmm. Even when something I had another show, Scrubs. If you ever saw that one, mm-hmm. They had several episodes that. They were some motherfuckers. Mm-hmm. They would do shit just to get you, because I believe fully that the makers of that show were more into this generational thing than I am, and so they knew who they were talking to. They knew they were talking to that generation that was the Oregon Trail generation, mm-hmm. and so they made a show for us, and that show was Scrubs, and it was fantastic. But they kept hitting us. They kept hitting us where we lived over and over again.
Yeah.
And so there was a few of those that can get you if you're looking for some exposure there. So all that to saying is, guys, feel your feelings, and if there's something that gets you in touch with it, then keep doing that, and don't be ashamed of it, because we have a tendency to be ashamed of it.
Right.
We have a tendency to think ourselves unmanly if you're a man.
Right.
or you think of yourself as being selfish if you're a woman, right? Like, how can I take moments out for myself when little Susie needs braces?
Right.
And I got to take Johnny here to Jamboree. You know, like all that shit all comes before our emotional stability. It's like, guys, it's okay. I know that we have to do it. We're gonna keep burying it a little bit,
Right.
but ever so often, you got to let that pressure off.
Right.
You know, and that's fine. That's okay.
See, I think in this case, the reason I've been so quiet is because I have, I'm not going to say an advantage, but I'm just different.
Yeah.
You
In
know,
what way?
dude, I nearly lost it last night at the Apple commercial for this year. The Apple Christmas commercial.
Yeah. No.
Like
I can't touch it that easily.
it's just there all the
Yeah.
time. Have you seen that one, Ray?
The Apple commercial?
The new Apple commercial?
No, I haven't. But
So
I'm fairly certain I would have very little reaction to it.
probably it's not even like
It's not because I don't think it's a good commercial. It's that I'm not really in. Like, if you say Apple, and I'm like, Apple.
so the commercial is basically they actually have a 3-minute long version of it, you know, so that you
Okay.
don't have to watch commercials on Hulu. And then you watch this one, and it's like 3 minutes long. It's just these two young girls, and they're flying with their parents, and you know, hey, Dad downloaded some movies for you. You know, watch them on the iPad.
Yeah.
They're just following along with them using the iPad. Dad has to come in at night and tell them, hey, you really need to go to sleep. Stop messing with the iPad. All these different little scenes of them having their Christmas holiday with family.
Right?
But noticeably absent is the grandmother.
Oh, actually, no, I have seen that commercial.
And then they're sitting on the couch
No, I've seen
Christmas
that
Day,
one.
and they give them the iPad, and it's got the whole picture and, like, you know, pictures of the guy's recently deceased wife, the
Right,
grandmother, and he just breaks down. With
Wow.
all and I'm
Yeah.
like, even right now, I'm feeling it. Like
Right, yeah.
that's how close I am to it. Like at all times.
So you're more. It's cool. You're more. The key to unlock it for you is not as it's not. You don't bury it as deep.
No.
Like it's there,
Yeah.
but it's accessible
but
through.
you're also younger than us by like you're in the next generation.
I am technically a millennial. Yes.
Yeah, you're a millennial. Like, we're not millennials.
No.
We're there.
Gen
Like,
Xers.
it's like we're more like our parents than the millennials are like their parents.
Yeah, so maybe millennials just because they saw what their grandparents and their parents did, they have a better handle on this.
See, the thing is,
I think they do.
most of your generational gaps that you'll see is like boomers are parents to Xers, and then Xers parents to. But that's not the case with Xers and millennials.
Right.
The Xer and the millennial generations have a sibling relationship.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
And so we didn't just watch our parents, right, who are the
Right.
same as your parents.
You also watch the Xers.
We watched our older siblings
yeah.
and how
Okay.
they had the struggle.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And we didn't want to struggle.
I will tell you,
that.
like, for example, this is actually the perfect contrast because he reminded me of that commercial, and I did see that commercial. I watched it with my entire family, and immediately when the commercial was over, I'm like, okay, guys, my children, if I'm cool on Christmas, and Mom's gone, and we're having a great time, don't fucking pull out pictures of this woman and make me weep like a little bitch on Christmas Day. I'm trying to get through this.
Right. And see,
And you're like,
that's-
oh, Dad, here's Dad. He's enjoying his turkey. How about we show him pictures of his deceased loved one?
Yeah.
Here you go, Dad. Don't you love us too? No, fuck off with that. Like, I was very, in my.
You were immediately defensive.
Yes, I was.
he was immediately buried.
I was immediately burying it.
And I won't.
Yeah.
You know? I'm just like, nah, it's there, bro.
I
But
think
at the same time, that first scene in Up, like, I was in the middle of a doctor's office when that first scene in Up came on, and yeah, I cried like for 10, 15 minutes off that. I couldn't even see the first part of the film.
There's a show called, I don't know if you guys have watched it, called Turn, Washington Spies.
No,
And it's an
haven't seen
AMC show
Okay.
about basically the advent of spies and intelligence in the American Revolution.
Okay.
Okay. And the main character has a small family on Long Island, and you're following him throughout the entire series. And he's got 2 young children. And, one of the things spies do is they have to leave notes to pass information on. So they find like hiding spots inside of trees.
Right.
At the end of the series, you hear him reading a letter that he wrote after the revolution, after everything's done. Right. It's now like 1820 or something like that. He's older. He's getting ready to die. He's writing a letter.
Right.
And he's writing a letter to his son. And at the end of the letter, he says, in some month of 1812, you fell to British muskets, and I lost it. Like full on, I screamed at the TV because I've been following this beautiful little boy
Right.
in this show who had no idea what his father was doing. Right?
Right.
And I full on nearly tore my TV off the goddamn wall
Right.
and lost it so hard because
Right.
I was the only person in the house.
Right.
Right. Yeah. That's the perfect time to do that for sure. No. Yeah. Yeah. No. I get it.
It's just an interesting thing. I think so. Maybe like I say, maybe we have made some progress. The fact that
I think
The
the fact
next
that we
gen-
have an outlet that we know that we can access it is well above a lot of people.
yeah,
I think Xers need to know that their younger siblings, us millennials, you're safe to express that, to be vulnerable around us because we are, and we're not going to judge you for it.
Right. Yeah, that's it. Really was about, right? It's really hiding from. Well, you're hiding from public judgment, but you're really hiding from inner judgment.
Right.
Like don't be a pussy.
yeah,
Like that's men and women. Don't be a pussy.
right,
That's what we grew up with.
right.
Like, I don't even know why. I don't even know why it was so important to not be a pussy.
Yeah.
I don't
Like,
either.
can anybody explain why that was such a big thing?
I had an older brother I have an older brother who's actually your guys' age, right?
Sure.
He's going to turn. He ought to be turning 40 this year in 2020.
All right.
And he would tell me that all the time. Don't be a pussy. And he's hard, man. He's
Yeah.
hard like you guys are.
Yeah.
And I never understood it. I'm like, this is just who I am, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, that is so not our generation. We are not that.
Yeah, we're not okay with ourselves at all.
No.
So,
All right, guys. This has been fun. You've been listening to Tattoo with Children. I've been your host, Flavor Ray. And you can find Tattoo with Children on Facebook at Tattoo with Children. You can find us on Instagram at Tattoo with Children. You can find us on Twitter at Tattooed With. You can also find the podcast at our website, which is www.tattooedchildren.com. And just recently, we have a Patreon that is up. We don't fund this podcast with things like advertisements. We don't make any money on it whatsoever currently. But we are getting to that point in our growth cycle where a little bit of fundage is proven to be necessary.
fundage.
So we're gonna put it out to our loyal listeners out there, whoever you are,
Fundage.
to go ahead and hit up that Patreon. It's Tattoo with Children. You can find us on the Patreon at Tattoo with Children, and drop a little bit if you want to be a part of the crew. Like
you get something for it.
you do get something for it. For a simple $5.
I'll come around and cry for you.
No, that's much more expensive. That's not even part of the tiers. You can look at the tiers when you get on there.
I'm
but
the lower level crying.
The first tier is just a simple fin, $5 bill, will get you access to bonus content that we have, and will get you a personal shout out. So you'll get a personal shout out. and our bonus content. And we have, honestly, guys, we've got bonus episodes. We have one of the things I do instead of cry, I'll rant. I will open up my phone and do a long rant where I yell about the thing that's bothering me. And it's very cathartic for me, and I've played them from other people, and apparently they're entertaining. So that is also something that you can hear for that $5. So it actually gets out to be a good bit of bonus content.
Yeah, I think, and we'll be adding things.
Yeah, I just launched it, guys, right before this podcast started. So there's the content isn't all up yet, but it's going it's going to come up very soon.
Yeah,
and there will be other posts. There will be like for that $5. Like I'm going to use that thing to post and like talk about things, potential topics, and so on and so forth. And there are other tiers that you can go and check those other tiers out. So yeah, Patreon, Tattoo with Children. You can also find me on Twitter at Hunter Vanguard. Is one word, Hunter Vanguard. And you can find me on IG at Madara Shadow. You can find Ben on IG at Black Crow Brother and at Black Spot Tattoo Company. You can find Mike Payne at CIO Payne on IG and also at Payne.points. That is Payne spelled Payne. Guys, this crying episode is also a little rejoinder to self-care. Emotional stability, emotional intelligence is something that I really think my generation has a hard time with, because I know I have a hard time with it. And I think it's something that we have to pay attention to. So, yeah, take care of yourselves. Take care of yourself before you take care of anybody else. Love you.
Later.
see you.
Bring it back, but it's more than basic. It's a portion of his rap at the core is ancient. It's supported like a pack of some more observations. They're important like the fact that we're bored of fake shit. More creative, have the floor, so take it. Travel to the